I don't ever slow up, no I don't take sh**. I got no love for the fake.
Types of guns, descriptions, and functions. Price tags. Going to a shooting range and shooting 2 or 3 rounds is a great movement that many individuals appreciate. Learning the different styles of firearms can challenge since there are such countless varieties. In all actuality, there are 3 center styles of weapons, and these 3 styles can be further being separated into a wide range of classifications. The 3 main types of guns include handguns, shotguns, and rifles. Every one of the 3 styles of firearms have a few subclassifications they can be broken into. We should investigate the primary subclasses and show you the names and photos of each to assist you with recognizing the different styles of firearms. Many individuals become befuddled about the particular kind of firearm they are holding and the way in which they work. With such countless different moving parts that make up the gun as well as the different ammo plans and purposes, it tends to overpower. What can help is understanding what the fundamental parts are of any gun and grasping their capability. All guns have 3 fundamental parts that are known as the activity, the barrel, and the stock. Consider the activity the core of the gun. This is where all that truly significant and complex is occurring. The activity is where your cartridge, shot, is being stacked, discharged, and launched out. With respect to your barrel, this is the metal cylinder that your shot will go down and projecting from. The projectile will be moved forward using any and all means like explosive or compacted air. The barrel will likewise go about as a method for pointing, and shows where the slug will go. The stock is the help to your barrel and activity. It's where you will really hold the gun, consequently permitting you to pull the trigger. With rifles, shotguns, and automatic weapons, the stock will be squeezed against your shoulder, with one hand going on the trigger and the other holding the forestock, the region straightforwardly before the barrel. With handguns and pistols, you will put 1 or 2 hands on the stock to utilize the weapon. These are the essential parts that will be referenced all through this article. The various kinds, however, are constructed distinctively in this way. Consequently, each will have various highlights. As I make sense of each firearm type, I will likewise specify more parts well defined for that weapon. However, I will try to make sense of the part in better detail. Revolvers. Revolvers or pistols are not the same as handguns due to one explicit component. They contain a chamber wherein various loads hold cartridges independently and turn with each rack of the weapon. This will then, at that point, adjust the slug to the barrel of the firearm. This firearm can fire various types, for the most part implies the size of the projectile's distance across, subsequently making assortment. They can likewise be utilized with one hand. The different types of revolvers. Single action implies that the trigger does a certain something and that thing is discharging the firearm. With single activity guns, the mallet should be pulled back each time physically prior to pulling the trigger. If not, it won't work. Double action implies that the trigger has twofold the activities that it performs. It racks the mallet and flames the gun across the board movement. With the primary snap of pulling the trigger back, it racks the mallet, and with the second snap of delivering the trigger, it discharges the firearm. Double action only implies that the pistol doesn't have a mallet. All things considered, it racks and shoots the weapon without there being a noticeable sledge. You could favor the single activity just for the way that it doesn't need a ton of work to pull the trigger, while with the twofold activity gun more strain will be required for the trigger. Note that you can get a pistol that has both single activity and twofold activity highlights. Individuals who have a hidden to convey grant favor the Dow pistol in view of the no hammer highlight, in this manner making it simpler to haul out of a handbag or dress with good reason. Handguns. This weapon is ideal for hit convey clients since it is light, conveys major areas of strength for A, and is extremely precise. As likely clear by the name, it is unique in relation to shotguns, rifles, and automatic weapons since you can discharge it with one hand. The barrel is short with thick walls that empower the weapon to endure high tensions, and the drag is rifling. The drag for any gun is within the barrel, and rifling shows that the drag is recorded such that there are winding forests. This then gives the shot a twist as it shoots out of the barrel. Rifling builds the precision of your shot. Handguns arrive in different sizes. These are for the most part regular, conservative, sub-smaller, and miniature minimized / pocket guns. They all offer a few normal highlights. All cutting-edge self-loader handguns are taken care of by a separable magazine. They are likewise intended to deal with one type yet numerous styles of that type. We should check out at the various sizes of handgun. Full-sized. Full-sized handguns are the biggest standard handgun size accessible. They include barrels that are 4.5 inches long to 5 inches long. They are additionally sufficiently enormous to accommodate your entire hand on their hold easily. The Glock 17 and most standard 1911s are regular handguns. Compact handguns are more modest than standard ones. They have more limited barrels going from 3.5 creeps to 4.5 inches. Their grasp can be essentially as extensive as a regular gun or marginally more limited. These incorporate guns like the Glock 19 and the P320 reduced. Subcompact pistols are much more modest than reduced guns. They have barrels that are 3.5 inches or less. Its hold is a lot more limited and can commonly just fit around 2 fingers on it serenely. The Taurus G3C 9mm is a model for a sub-minimized gun. Micro-compact / pocket pistol have been around for quite a while, and their most recent variant is the miniature minimized. These weapons have under a 3-inch barrel or less and can without much of a stretch fit in pockets. A cutting-edge illustration of these kinds of weapon are the new Springfield Hellcat. Essentially, all magazine took care of handguns made today are twofold activity. In the event that you are needing a less expensive, yet quality handgun, I suggest the Taurus PT111 G2. I bought this handgun 5+ a long time back, conveyed it for the overwhelming majority of those years, and put around 3,500 rounds through the firearm. I never had any issues in that time with the actual weapon. Considering that it is scarcely more than $200 pristine when bought here, it settles on it a superb decision for a low spending plan. In the event that you are searching for a better quality handgun with every one of the fancy odds and ends, I suggest the Conflict Rider gun. This has been my everyday convey for some time now, and I've never possessed a superior handgun. Rifles. Rifles will require 2 hands, with the stock being situated against the shoulder. The barrel will be long and the drag will have rifling also. The ATF, the Department of Liquor, Tobacco, Guns, and Explosives, characterizes your regular rifle as a weapon planned or overhauled, made or revamped, and expected to be shot from the shoulder and planned or updated and made or changed to involve the energy of the unstable and a decent cartridge to shoot just a solitary shot through a rifle drag for each single draw of the trigger. There are different sorts of rifles, and these are: lever-action rifles are the primary plan of rifles. At the point when you consider a cowpoke out in the Wild West, this would be the sort of firearm he'd convey. With this rifle, there is a cylinder that runs close by the barrel called the rounded magazine. There is a handle behind the trigger that you will pull back to pull a cartridge from the rounded magazine and into the chamber where it will be terminated. Known for being less exact, they are likewise significantly heavier. Bolt-action rifles are extremely famous rifles and the most created on the planet for being not difficult to utilize and precise. A little metal bar will stand out of the firearm over your trigger and behind the chamber. This is called your bolt handle. With 4 movements of up, in reverse, forward, and down, the gun will then complete 3 things. It will launch the last cartridge, load the following streak, and afterward close the chamber, preparing it for fire. From that point you simply pull the trigger. Semi-automatic rifles are extremely straightforward in the way that they wipe out the requirement for physically stacking a cartridge into the chamber, and on second thought can fire 1 round with 1 draw of the trigger. These rifles regularly utilize a magazine or clasp. Break-action rifles are exceptional in that they appear to break in half at the chamber to some degree. By pulling on the activity discharge, the firearm pivots open like an entryway, and from that point you can stack and empty your cartridges. Air rifles require no compound responses, rather than shooting their shots by pneumatical implies. This can be through pneumatic force or gas. The various kinds of air rifles incorporate spring-controlled, gas cylinder, pre-charged pneumatic, PCP, variable siphon, and CO2 fueled. The AR-15. The AR and AR-15 doesn't, in opposition to normal conviction, mean attack rifle, however rather is named after its unique maker, Armalite. The non-military personnel AR-15 is only a self-loading rifle, promptly excluding it from being an attack rifle, and on the off chance that you attempt to change this weapon over completely to a programmed weapon you will get yourself arrested. There are 3 essential parts to the AR-15. There's the upper beneficiary, then the endlessly bolt transporter, and afterward the lower collector. The upper collector incorporates the barrel and can be isolated from the lower recipient, both being kept intact by 2 pins. Pushing one pin out will point the upper recipient forward so you can clean it, and pushing both out isolates the 2. The lower collector contains the stock and trigger. To fire your AR-15, there are 2 frameworks you can look over. Direct impingement and gas piston. Direct impingement, when you pull the trigger, you will be delivering a charged gas that will take care of through a little opening in the barrel. From that point it will go into a little cylinder and travel until it encroaches the bolt transporter. The gas and energy will all then be in the back piece of the rifle and will drive the bolt once more into where your spent cartridges will emerge. This will push the bolt transporter back and hit the cushion, the part between the stock and trigger, back where a spring will press. From that point, a spring-stacked activity will move it forward and dispose of a spent round from the magazine. Gas cylinder. This has a comparable beginning of the fuel gas taken care of through a little opening in the barrel, yet rather here will remain in a chamber that is discrete and holds a cylinder. As the cylinder is moved, the bolt transporter will be pushed back, removing the spent round and reloading the following one. Assuming you are searching for a section-level AR-15 that is very much constructed, I suggest the Ruger AR-556 chambered in either 5.56 or 300 BLK. I for one decided to go with one chambered in 300 BLK, but 300 BLK ammunition is harder to come by and nearly twice the price. You can pick up this gun for under $800 here. Shotguns. Like the rifle, this weapon is intended to be shot from the shoulder and incorporates a long barrel. Yet, where the rifle has a rifle drag, the shotgun has a smooth drag with slenderer walls or its own rifle drag. The smooth drag diminishes the erosion and thicker walls are not as essential on the grounds that less tension is seen here. The uniqueness found with shotguns is that, not normal for the rifle or handgun where just a single shot will be fired, the shotgun can shoot numerous shots called shot. The fire detonates from the weapon and fans out as it leaves. These weapons are short-range in light of the fact that the force of a solitary release is divided between numerous pieces and consequently the shot loses its energy as it voyages away. Like rifles, there are numerous sorts of shotguns. The sorts are break activity, switch activity, siphon activity, and self-loader. Break-action shotguns are the least difficult sort of shotgun. They have 1, 2, or even 3 barrels side close to one another and have their shells stacked in by hand when the firearm is torn open. Single-barrel break-activity shotguns are great novice firearms since they can acknowledge each shell in turn and are reasonable. An example of a solitary barrel shotgun is the Henry single-fired youth shotgun. Lever-action shotguns are like switch-activity rifles. A switch on the lower part of the weapon is utilized to place the following shell in the activity, however, rather than a rifle round, it is a shotgun shell. These kinds of shotguns have dropped out of prevalence besides in regions where they are the main lawful choice. The Henry Switch Activity .410 shotgun is an illustration of a cutting-edge switch activity shotgun. Pump-action shotguns are the most widely recognized shotgun type today. They convey different shells in a cylinder magazine under the barrel. The shells are placed into the activity by pulling back on the forestock and afterward pushing the forestock forward. This movement will discharge spent shells and chamber new ones for however long there is ammo in the magazine. The Mossberg 500 and Remington 870 are genuine instances of siphon activity shotguns. Semi-automatic shotguns work similarly as self-loading rifles do. They take a portion of the gas from the fuel to chamber the following shell. These kinds of shotguns are turning out to be more well-known yet have somewhat unexpected controls in comparison to those found on a siphon activity shotgun. These shotguns have buttons to deliver the electrical jolt shotgun. This prepares the weapon to discharge with a shell in the chamber. The Beretta 1301 is an illustration of a self-loader shotgun. For home safeguard, a straightforward 12-measure security shotgun is difficult to beat. I accept a decent 12 check ought to be in each home. I for one suggest the Mossberg 930 security shotgun with an 8-round limit. It's marginally costlier than their lower-end Maverick line, yet the quality distinction is perceptible. You can get one here for simply more than $700. Machine guns. Something essential to comprehend prior to participating in what compels an assault rifle and automatic rifle is knowing the contrast between self-loader and programmed. Self-loader implies that the gun consequently reloads with no manual stacking and can over and again discharge one projectile for every one draw of the trigger. Programmed implies that when the trigger instrument is being used, the gun will over and again shoot until you discharge the trigger. To have the option to legitimately claim any completely programmed weapon in the U.S., the weapon should be made before 1986. However, recently fabricated guns can be lawfully switched over completely to a legitimate machined firearm with the proper desk work and endorsement of the ATF and the getting of an expense stamp. The pre-1986 necessity just applies to adaptable or cell-capable assault rifles in the U.S. Legitimately, an assault rifle is any completely programmed weapon. In any case, there are a few sorts that meet the lawful definition, however, are classified contrastingly in plan and practice. These sorts are submachine weapons, weighty automatic weapons, light automatic rifles, and attack rifles / select discharge rifles. I will cover attack rifles without help from anyone else, so how about we check the two different sorts out? Submachine guns are programmed weapons loaded in a gun or handgun type. Early forms of these kinds of firearms are at times called machine guns, however later the term machine gun would just apply to handgun estimated programmed weapons. Numerous submachine firearms were planned and produced before 1986, making them exceptionally pursued by authorities. Instances of early submachine weapons are the American Thompson submachine firearm and the English Sten series of submachine firearms. Heavy machine guns are probably the earliest kinds of automatic weapons for military use. They're harder to move and are by and large mounted to a transporter or comparable gadget of some kind. When discharged constantly, they produce a ton of intensity which expects them to be cooled to forestall harm to the weapon. This is finished by utilization of a water coat or via air cooling. The two strategies attempt to scatter heat rapidly to keep the barrel from dissolving. Most weighty assault rifles have a belt of slugs feed into them. This is on the grounds that their discharge rate is a lot higher than an ordinary rifle and a regular magazine won't keep going long. Different times the automatic weapon slugs are greater than a typical rifle and a magazine for shots of that size isn't useful. Instances of hurling automatic weapons are the Searing M2 weighty assault rifle and the Proverb firearm. Light machine guns are intended to be conveyed by a solitary individual or with a group. They use rifle shots in a belt or some of the time in a magazine. More established kinds of light automatic rifles became famous during the universal conflicts and are exceptionally collectible. More current-made light automatic weapons are built taking care of just and harder to gather. Instances of light automatic rifles are the Lewis firearm and the American M60. Assault rifles work by permitting the weapon to shoot each time it is prepared to. This implies that the trigger that typically prevents the weapon from discharging a large number of rounds is intended to let the bolt or bolt transporter keep working after each shot. This is finished by the trigger not connecting with something many refer to as a singe. The singe is basically a little catch that the trigger snares onto. An appropriately working burn in a self-loading weapon will prevent the firearm from shooting in the future. On the off chance that it doesn't, this implies the parts are harmed and the weapon should be fixed. Nonetheless, a weapon intended for completely programmed shoot and be set to do this intentionally and doesn't demonstrate parts harm. Toward the finish of the barrel nearest to the trigger, there is a thing called the terminating pin. The discharging pin is what, when the trigger is pulled, strikes the preliminary of your cartridge and makes the shot destroy the barrel. That is the initial segment of how the automatic rifle functions. The subsequent part carries on to deliver an activity in the spring bolt, which pushes back the bolt to launch the packaging of your shot. Then the bolt will raise a ruckus around town and push it forward again to stack one more shot into the chamber and afterward make it hit the discharging pin again, subsequently rehashing the interaction inasmuch as the trigger is pulled. Assault rifles. Assault rifles contrast from automatic weapons in that they have the choice of a self-loader mode, a 3-shot burst mode, and a programmed mode. In any case, attack rifles are likewise named automatic rifles on account of their programmed discharging limit. The AK-47 is a genuine illustration of an attack rifle, as military renditions can have a programmed setting as well as a self-loader setting. To discharge this weapon, you should simply pull the trigger, which delivers the mallet that strikes the shooting pin. The terminating pin will then, at that point, strike the preliminary of your cartridge and touch off the fuels inside. The gases that are delivered as the shot races down the barrel extend and compel the gas cylinder in reverse. This pushes the bolt transporter back and launches the packaging while simultaneously resetting the mallet. The bolt will then push forward, gathering up a slug from the magazine and spot it into the chamber, prepared to restart the cycle. If you like this videos, subscribe and not forget to hit the notification so that you will be notified when we upload new videos. I know you have something on your mind. Please share your thought on the comment section and don't forget to like. It will help our channel to grow.